first blood draw, is it?
All right, our live stream is up and running. All right, we're going to start our service on page 6 of our Siddurim. Page 6 of our Siddurim was Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malechei Hashayres, Malechei El Elyon. Mi Melech Malechei V'Malachim HaKadosh V'Arechu. Boechem Shalom, Malechei HaShalom, Malechei El Elyon. Mi Melech Malechei V'Malachim HaKadosh Baruch Baruch Ni L'Shalom, Malechei HaShalom, Malechei El Elyon. Mi Melech Malechei V'Malachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seitchem Shalom, Malechei HaShalom, Malechei El Elyon. Mi Melech Malechei V'Malachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'd like to invite up any volunteers for our candle blessings of today.
Unless you want to do it.
We've got the matches underneath here.
That's okay. I don't want to.
Gotcha, okay.
Come, let us welcome Shabbat.
May its radiance illuminate our hearts.
Light is a symbol of the divine.
The eternal is my light and my salvation.
Light is a symbol of the divine within us.
The human spirit is the light of the eternal.
Light is a symbol of the divine law.
The mitzvah is a lamp and the Torah a light.
Light is a symbol of Israel's mission.
I, the eternal, have made you a covenant people, a light to the nations. Karen, would you like to come up and light the Shabbos candles?
Me?
Yes, use your camera.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And we'll say the blessing together afterwards. Laura was here and she did some cleaning and the boxes, they're underneath there still, the boxes.
No.
The boxes are
So I
still,
asked him to do it.
I'll do it.
the boxes are still
That's why I
underneath
asked
here.
Mrs.
I
Rabbi
can
to do
strike
it.
the, oh, there we go.
The boxes are still here.
Last time I tried to do it, when after little David burnt his fingers.
Oh,
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Bless, O you, O eternal our God, who makes us whole, our lives holy through divine mitzvah, and has commanded us to kindle the Shabbat light.
amen.
Amen.
May the eternal bless us with Shabbat joy.
Amen.
May the eternal bless us with Shabbat peace.
Amen.
May the eternal bless us with Shabbat holiness.
Amen. We're going to now turn to page 9 of our Siddurim for Lecha Dodi. Lecha Dodi Ligraka La Yerada 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 B'nei Shabbat Nekabela Lecha Dodi Ligraka La Yerada 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 B'nei Shabbat Nekabela Shamor B'Zachor B'Dibor Echad Hishmianu Echad Uchad Adonai Echad U'Shemo Echad L'Shem Tiferet V'Litehila Lechai Dodi Ligraka La Yerada 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 B'nei Shabbat Nekabela Lechai Dodi Ligraka La Yerada 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 B'nei Shabbat Nekabela Ligrat Shabbat Lehu V'Nelcha Ki Mekor HaBracha Mirosh Mikedem Nesuka Sof ma'asa b'maksha tehila lechai doidi ligraka la yereda b'nei Shabbat nikabela lechai doidi ligraka la yereda b'nei Shabbat nikabela hi ori kiva ore kumi Ori, shir daberi kavod Adonai alai negila alech doiti likraka la yereda b'nei Shabbat nekavela alech doiti likraka la yereda b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Now we all face the entrance or exit of our building as we welcome in the Shabbos bride. Boi v'shalom aseret bala, gam b'simcha u'b'tzola, toch emunei am sigula, boi ikala, lechai doidi ligraka la yereda b'nei Shabbat, nekabela lechai doidi ligraka la yereda b'nei Shabbat. Nekabela. Remain standing for the Hatzi Kaddish on page 11 of our Sidurims. Page 11 of our Sidurims. Yitkadal ve'yitkadash Shamei Rabbah. Ve'amod yivra hirutei v'yamich ma'alchutein becha hayechon u'v'yoimechon u'chayedecho Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala, ubizman karib, v'yameru, amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevorach, le'olam alomei elmaya, yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitba'ar, v'yitramon, v'yitasei, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemei kurashah brechu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, Tushbechata v'nechemata damiran b'alma v'yameru, amen. Now turn to page 12 of the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Page 13 will join together in the italicized text together. Eternal God, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky. Sun, moon, and stars testify to your power and wisdom. Day follows day in endless succession, and the years vanish, but your sovereignty endures. Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you and endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. Blessed are you, O Eternal, who brings on the evening. Page 13 at the bottom of the page will join together in the English translation for Avat Olam. With eternal love you have loved your people, the house of Israel. Torah and commandments, statutes and judgments you have taught us. Therefore, O Eternal our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will discuss your statutes and rejoice in the words of your Torah and your commandments forever. For they are our lives, and they lengthen our days, and we will meditate upon them day and night. May you never remove your love from us forever and ever. Blessed are you, O Eternal, who loves God's people, Israel. Page 13 will join together for the Shema prayer, of which we'll customarily cover our eyes. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kiyod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. You may be seated. We will join together for the V'ahavta on page 16 of our Sidurims. Page 16 of our Sidurims. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'chayu hadvarim ha'eleh Asher anochi mitzavecha chayom al levavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shitecha b'beitecha u'bletecha b'derech ושכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם מאוד על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, amen. Page 17 will join together in the English reading, the responsive reading on page 17. Eternal truth is that you alone are God, and there is none else.
May the righteous of all nations rejoice in your love and exult in your justice.
Let them beat their swords into plowshares.
Let them beat their spears into pruning hooks.
Let nation not lift up sword against nation, let them study war no more.
You shall not hate another in your heart, you shall love your neighbor as yourself.
Let the stranger be in your midst, to you as the native, for you were once strangers in the land of Egypt.
From the house of bondage we went forth to freedom, so let all be free to sing with joy.
Page 18 will join together from Mi Chamocha. Mi Chamocha Banim Adonai, Mi Chamocha Nedar by Kodesh, Nora Teilot Osei Fele, Malchut Zechara Ubanecha, Bokeyam Livnei Moshe, Ze Eli Anu V'Amru, Adonai Yimloch Leolam Va'ed, V'ne'emar Ki Farah Adonai et Yaakov, V'lo Mi'at Chazak Mimenu, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Page 19 will join together for the translation for Hashkivenu. It's a responsive reading on page 19. Cause us, O eternal our God, to lie down in peace and to awaken us each morning to life renewed with strength. Spread over us the holy shelter of your peace.
Help us to order our lives by your counsel, and lead us in the paths of righteousness. Be a shield about us, protecting us from hate and war, from pestilence and sorrow.
Curb also within us the inclination to do evil, and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Guard our going out and our coming into life, with peace from this time forth forever.
Blessed are you, O Eternal, whose holy shelter of peace spread over us, over all God's people Israel, and over Jerusalem.
Page 20 will join together for Vishamru. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, Lasot et ha-Shabbat le'doret berit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, Lasot et ha-Shabbat le'doret berit olam. B'nei Yisrael oti le'olam, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, Lasot et ha-Shabbat le'doret berit olam. Ki shek yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, Lasot et ha-Shabbat le'doret berit olam. Ubayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, Lasot et ha-Shabbat le'doret berit olam. We now rise on page 21 of our Siddurim for the Amidah prayer for Tefillah on page 21. Adonai sefer taitahu fi yagita ilatecha, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'imatenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, V'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imachot, U'Mevi Ge'ula Livnei B'Nechem, L'man Shemo V'Yahava, Melech Oser U'Mashiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham V'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol Atah Rab V'Hoshia, Mashiach Ruach U'Marita Geshem, Mechalkel Chaim B'Chesed, Mechayei HaKol B'Rachamim Rabim, Soimech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umechayem Emunato Lishenei Afar, Micha Mocha Ba'al Giburot, Umidon Melach, Melech Memith, Umechayei, Umatzmiach Yeshua, B'ne'eman Atalecha Hayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai Mechayei HaKol, Atah Kadosh V'Shim HaKadosh V'Choshim B'Chol Yom Yechaledu Chasela, Baruch Atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. We daven silently until page 29, where we'll join together for Oseh Shalom.
Well, then you should end that page. Okay, full Shabbat. Then I'll do it.
We're going to join together for Oseh Shalom on page 29 of our Sidurians. Oseh Shalom is on page 29 of our Sidurians. Oseh Shalom Mimromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imru Amen. Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yameru Amen. This week's Torah portion is Parshat Yisro. I'd like to draw attention to some of our verses, specifically from Parshat Yisro in Shemos, chapter 13 through chapter 23, and also more specifically in chapter 20, verses 1 through 13. These verses will thematically deal with both leadership and legislation as we know it today. Beginning in Shemos chapter 13 through 23, Moshe Rabbeinu, our great teacher and leader, is challenged by some fundamental issues relevant to his leadership. Jethro, his soon-to-be father-in-law, is impressed by Moses, but he knows that even Moses is not perfect, and Moses has room for improvement. Jethro suggests to Moses that Moses must take a step back and put some of his faith in the people around him. This is naturally challenging for many leadership personalities, and it can be a flaw and lead to many leadership catastrophes and failures. However, as we read in the third Aliyah of this week's Torah portion, Moses will listen to his father-in-law, and he will put his faith in those around him. So let us meditate upon those thoughts for a moment. What does it mean for our leadership to listen to the people around us and put faith in them? How might it be difficult for a leader to take a step back? Many of us may be able to think of an example in our own lives when we started a project or an initiative. Anecdotally, I can think of one of myself. I started opening the Ark project a few years ago. That was a project that rebuilt a fantastic Ark that was destroyed in the Holocaust and brought it back to life. But projects like it and initiatives, they become successful, and often we don't want to take a step back for ourselves. They somehow, in the process, become our own children, these projects. But inevitably, we need to trust the people around us to see them to their success. And I believe the verses of this week's Torah portion specifically are speaking to that experience. To give another example, many of us may have seen a film not too long ago known as The Irishman by Martin Scorsese. It was released a few years ago. It's on Netflix still. Some of us may be able to remember the events retold in that motion picture. And for much of the 1950s and the 1960s, Jimmy Hoffa cultivated and developed the Teamsters Union that we know today. He eventually left his leadership role to serve almost 5 years in a federal prison for corruption, and upon his release, he unsuccessfully tried to reestablish himself to his former leadership capacities. You see, Hoffa could not take a step back. Somewhere along the line, the Teamsters became his baby, and he didn't listen to the people around him. Neither the authorities, the union members, even the nefarious mafia contacts, they all told him to take a step back and leave the organization. But at a certain point, he believed he was the Teamsters Union. The reality is that he wasn't. His child, that is the Teamsters Union, was out of his house, which was fundamentally hard for him to reconcile. Sometimes we need to listen to the people around us, and the hardest advice comes to us when we're leaders. No less is it receiving this advice from a father-in-law or mother-in-law when it becomes easy. But we must listen and act when appropriate, as we see in this week's Torah portion. Sometimes we need to know when to let go of some of our responsibilities, and it's not easy, but sometimes it's necessary. It is important for us to meditate upon the leadership and these thoughts from this week's Torah portion. But our Torah reading of this week has yet more to offer us in terms of guidance for legislation. Specifically, Shemos chapter 20, verses 1 through 13 include the Decalogue, that is the Big Ten Commandments. The Decalogue will recount to the Israelites that our God will lead us and has led us out of Egypt, and he commands us to prohibit idolatry, murder, theft, adultery, saying God's name in vain, coveting thy neighbor, and bearing false witness. Meanwhile, the Sabbath and honoring one's mother and father appear not as prohibitions, but rather as positive acts that are commanded upon us as Jews. The Decalogue and its variants in Christian tradition have found their way into our schools, into our courtrooms, onto our money, and onto some flags and monuments. So I've long wondered why, and why these 10? Recall from Rabbi Akiva the saying, Amar Rabbi Akiva, v'ahavta l'recha kamocha ze klal gadol b'Torah. Rabbi Akiva said, love your neighbor as yourself. This is the essential principle of the Torah. So why do we focus so heavily on the Decalogue in our culture and in our society rather than this single verse by Rabbi Akiva? I pondered this question deeply over this past week and came to my own conclusion. Legal theory includes something known as natural law, which is the notion that a body exists of unchanging ethical principles for all human moral conduct. And the premise is that we are endowed with a natural set of statutes for what is right and what is wrong. Rabbi Akiva's statement may suggest that we are all naturally endowed with those abilities. If the essential principle of the Torah is to love thy neighbor as thyself, then the other statutes, such as honoring thy father and mother, may be presupposed as natural. However, I'd like to suggest that there is no such thing as natural law. The theory of natural law has grown increasingly unpopular among legal theorists. Just look at the various contradictions in state laws as to what may constitute murder or manslaughter as a perfect guide to this. Each degree is a perfect example that challenges the notion of natural law itself. So we need a Decalogue for that reason. We need a clear vision. It may not be the full 613 mitzvot, but it is a good start. We need statutes, we need laws, and we need to live by them. I put my faith not only in the kindness shown to me and from my neighbor, but also in mutually living by the statutes of the law. May these verses of this week always be a guide for our leadership and for our legislation. With that, Kenya here at Son, may be God's will. Amen.
Amen.
In just a moment, we're going to turn to the Misha Barak at the very back of our Sidurims. I'm going to recite names that have been provided to me from our Misha Barak list. After the names have been read aloud, if anyone would like to have any names added to the Misha Barak list, I'd like to ask anyone to add those names at that time. On the Misha Barak list for today, we have the following names: Evan Mitchell Wadika, Tsuya Bat Margalit, Elise Souza, Suzanne Wadika, Ruth Douse, Jerry Douse, Vicky Hyatt, Bill Natras, Miriam Mendel Ben Shira, Nachman Ben Malka, Shlomo Leva Ben Malka, Alan Lewis, Esther Batruth, Yehuda Ben Joseph, Russ Paneri, Jeffrey Stein, Jeffrey Koffler, Aaron Evers, Claudia Schafter, Courtney Zabadik, Linda Bloom, Elaine Blitz, Linda Wilson, Rhoda Jacobs, Bucky Bunnell, Linda Gotep, Sylvia Stern, Myra Levis, Eve Schneider, Dr. Sharon Anita Wander, Sonia Richmond, Susan Skovernik, Fran Salewitz, Marge Estrin, Yisrael Reuven Ben Devorah Alka, Stuart Kaufman, Ivan Radowitz, Eileen Thompson Sharon Berman, Mindel Batya Batsura Rivka, Bob Salewitz, Yuvan Zalmos, Michael Berkowitz, Asher Ephraim Chana Batsara Rivka. Are there any additional names anyone would like to add to our Misha Barak list of today?
Stephen Carroll Lichtenstein.
Stephen Carroll Lichtenstein,
Corinne Liz.
Karen Liz,
Corky Hockenberry.
Corky Hockenberry,
And Roger Bloomfield.
Roger Bloomfield. Any additional names?
Steve Paul.
Steve Paul,
Marcia Ponce.
Marcia Ponce,
Oh, Linda Belford.
Linda Belford. Are there any additional names?
Oh,
Yes.
Sharon Beckus.
Sharon Beckus. Any additional names? Okay, we will rise as the ark is being opened for the Misha Barak prayer at the very back of our Sidurims.
She can read that.
Misha Barak Avotenu Mekor Chabrecha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Barak Imotenu מקור חברך לאבותינו. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We remain standing now for the Aleinu prayer found on page 30 of our Sidurians. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet getula liyotzeh breshit, shelo atzanu ki ye'aratzot, velo samanu ki mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam kelkenu kachem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam. V'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim, u'moedim, Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shehu Notei Shamayim V'Yosei Haaretz U'Moshev Yekaro B'Shamayim Mima'al U'Shchinatu Zo B'Govei Meroimim U'Eloheinu Ein Od Emet Malkeinu Epezulato Kakatu v'torato v'yadata hayom v'hoshevota el abebecha ki Adonai hu Elohim b'shamayim mima'al v'yal ha'aretz mitzachot Ein od. Page 31 of our Sidurians will join together in the English at the top of the page. We therefore hope in you, O eternal our God, soon to behold the splendor of your might. Then will false gods vanish from the earth, and the idols will be utterly cut off, to heal the world through the sovereignty of the Almighty. Then will all acclaim you as their God, and forsaking evil, turn to you alone. Let all who dwell on earth acknowledge that unto you every knee must bend, and every tongue swear loyalty. Before you, O eternal our God, let them humble themselves to your glorious name. Let them give honor. Let all accept the yoke of your dominion, that you may rule over them soon and forever. For the dominion is yours, and you will rule in glory, as it is written, the eternal will reign forever and ever. V'ne'emar b'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz Bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad U'shemo echad. You may be seated. Our thoughts now turn to those members of our community who have passed at this time of years past. Also members of our community who have recently passed. I'll be reciting the names from my Yortzeit list, as well as members of our community who recently passed on the list for Shloshim. If there are any additional names anyone have after the names have been read aloud, please share with our community those names so that we can pray for the elevation of the neshama to Shemayim above us. Today's Yortzeit list can include the following names: Bernice Beck, Stanford Lebos, Benjamin Ginsberg, Morris Cohen, Simeon Marin, Bertha Rakip, Lucille Frederick, Bernice Rasinowitz, Dick Hazen, William Natras, Annie Bruce, Martin Schwartz, Esther Spielberg, Solomon Namias, Bill Scholar, Harry Rothberg, Harvey Marcus, Leonard Suslowitz, Luis Bodak, Nadine Schwartz, Marge Francisco, Harold Levinson. Recently passed from our community are the following names: Peter Lizama, Stan Perlman, David Schneider, Raphael Marcus, Florence Schneider, Sylvia Tannenbaum, Florence Guttmacher, Philip Moret, Bruce Leishik. Are there any additional names anyone is observing a Yortzeit for here today or in the period of Shloshim for?
Madeline Friedman.
Madeline Friedman. Thank you.
Ben Rodriguez,
Ben Rodriguez,
Fred Kellogg,
Fred Kellogg,
Judy Merman,
Judy Merman,
McDonald Smith,
McDonald Smith,
and Larry Bershad.
Larry Bershad. Okay, If it is your custom, please rise for the mourner's Kaddish found on page 33 of our Sidurians. Yitkadal v'yitkedash Shemei Rabbah B'alma divra chirutei v'yagних malchutei V'chayechon u'yoynechon u'chayei d'chol beis Yisrael V'agala u'yizman karid v'imru amen Yahei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal Shemei v'kudusha b'reichu Ve'ela minkol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damimran v'alma v'imru amen Yehi shlama rabba min shamayim v'chaim aleinu v'el kol Yisrael v'imru amen Oseh shalom v'bramav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'el kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort all who are bereaved, and let us say, Amen. You may be seated. Now we have some short but uplifting announcements. Liz is going to lead us on our announcements for today.
Shabbat Shalom.
Good Shabbos.
Saturday, February 11th, Torah study, worship, virtual and in person. Torah study 9:30, worship 10:15. Havdalah and game night, February 25th at 6:30, potluck snack night. RSVP to office by Friday, February 24th by 12 noon. New member Shabbat and Shabbat across America is March 3rd. Dinner is $5 per person, bagels and salads. Register for dinner on weekly email. Service is open to all at no cost. Purim Cafe, potluck dinner, Megillah, and Spiel, March 6th. Order your Purim baskets on weekly email. You can help the earthquake victims in Turkey and Syria by contributing to different organizations listed in our weekly email and the social action page of the website. Our next blood drive is Sunday, February 12th, 9 to 2, and there are a few more appointments left. Thank you.
Thank you. Shkaya. Do we have any volunteers who will lead us in the Chamotzi as well as also with the Kiddush today?
I'll do it.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Pam will lead us. All right, we're going to conclude our service on page 34 of our Sidurim, page 34 with Adon Olam. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nira Li'et Nasa B'chezo Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra B'yachat Rei Kichlot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora V'hu Haya V'hu Hoveh V'hu Yiyeh B'tzif Ara V'hu Echad V'yein Sheni Lehamshilo Lehachbira B'li Reshit B'li Tachlit V'lo Ha'oz V'hamizra V'hu Eli V'chayek Oali V'tzor Chevli V'yetzara V'hu Nisi Umanos Li Menat Kosi B'yom Ekra V'ya'ado Aki Ruchi V'yetzi Shan V'ya'ira V'im Ruchi Geviyati Adonai Li V'lo Ira. Good Shabbos everyone, Shabbat